It was only I think the wonderful performer of the kayagum earlier who got to sit. And so, can we turn the house lights up? Is that okay? Can I ask for that? Can you start my music, please? I'm just kidding, I have no music. I'm so glad to be here today at UC Santa Cruz. And thank you for inviting me. I'll start out, part of the sort of influencer content creator life is that unlike I think different forms of entertainment or public figure or whatever, generally speaking, it's like either someone's like, oh yeah, I've seen that guy before, or there's some people, very few, who are like, oh my god, yeah, like I love that guy, like, I see his content all the time. And then there's a lot of people who are like, I have no idea who that person is. And that's just like normal, it's a normal part of the sort of content creator life. And so to introduce myself to you, if you don't know who I am, my name is Nick Cho. I am known on the internet as Your Korean Dad. I've been doing it for a little over 5 years, 6 years now. Oh man, it's already 6 years. And it's been quite a journey. I am a dad, I'm gonna talk about that more later. But I thought that it would be really nice to take this opportunity. It's like, what does a content creator have to do on a stage to talk to college students like you and friends of college students and parents? I think there's a few other guests as well. I have some notes. So I thought what might be kind of cool is, because part of my sort of Your Korean Dad identity online is that I do, as they mentioned, our wonderful MCs mentioned, that I do sometimes give advice or kind of a certain kind of dad talk. So I thought, like, wouldn't it be nice to come to the KASA Banquet and just have like a dad talk with you all, directly to you, and that, you're gonna applaud for this. That's the thing that's different, right? On the internet, it's like people click a little heart thing or whatever. It's like here having actual applause. It's very, very different. So I thought that I would put together a little dad talk for you all, just for you. I've never given this talk before. But being that almost all of us here are Korean American, or friends and allies and spouses of Korean Americans, and all different kinds of Korean Americans, right? Like we have Wasian, Blasian, Lasian. Which ones am I missing some? So I thought that I would give a little talk that I'm gonna call What Your Parents Would Never Tell You, okay? And it's simple thing, 5 things, right? Internet people love the little list, top 5 things that your Korean parents, or just parents in general, might never tell you. And okay, so number 1. This is something that has come up a lot, again, in my comments, through conversations with people face-to-face, and through the online community. And it specifically has to do with the experience of being a child of immigrants. Because I think that for everyone here, again, just in varying sort of ways, we understand that, especially like nowadays, the sort of idea that we're either immigrants ourselves. Can I ask, like, a show of hands? How many people identify you, like you are the immigrant, like you immigrated here yourself, you were born overseas? Can I see a show of hands? Okay, a few. How many are the child of immigrants? In other words, your parents were the immigrant generation. Okay, wonderful. How about grandkids, like your grandparents were the ones who immigrated, sort of like the main sort of immigrating. Yeah? And like your parents were kind of second generation? Okay, awesome. Any that go further back than that? Like great-grandparents or yeah, maybe? A little shaky? Okay, very good. It's good to know. So that all said, we're pretty close to the immigrant generation, and I just want to speak to you about something that maybe you've never heard anyone talk about before. Because I sure never heard anyone talk about it with me. Is that when you're a child of immigrants, I just want to say, like, as a fellow child of immigrants, and I was a child of immigrant and immigrant myself, I came to the US when I was 1. I see you. There's a lot that you had to figure out all by yourself. Because, like when we look to our parents, there's a lot that we count on them for, right? We want them to help, as we're growing up, as we're kids. And I know as college students, this is a very important time where we're kind of transitioning from being kid into adult and sort of looking back on our childhood. That there were so many things that we had to do when we were children that we had to figure out for ourselves because our parents, they couldn't help us. Because we needed help sort of figuring out how to live here, and they've barely been here any more than we have. And so I just think it's something that deserves space, and when you think about like your childhood and what it was like, that you did have to do more than the other kids. There was a lot that you had to carry, a lot of burden. And again, that's the first thing that I want to share, okay? Second thing, building on that, again, something that your parents would never tell you, is there's a bit of a paradox. I'm going to talk more about paradoxes later, but there's a bit of a paradox that happens when you're growing up Korean American, which is that we understand in our Korean culture that we want to honor our elders, our ancestors, right? It's like a kind of, for people who have learned more about it, it's a certain kind of Confucianist background thing, okay? We want to honor them and respect them, and on the most part, listen to them. On the other hand, we're trying to make a life for ourselves here in the United States or wherever else if someone lives somewhere else. And trying to figure out how those two things fit together can be really hard. And the fact is that when we talk about this a lot, right? And maybe you've talked about this in class or in other discussions, the question about what does Asian American even mean? What is this sort of collective sort of thing? Why do we have to be all lumped together? This is a KASA, K stands for Korea, you know? It's like, what are all these things, how do these things fit together? Like, what does this mean for myself? What does this mean looking forward? I want to say to you, again, the thing that your parents will never tell you, don't look back. Don't look at your parents. Don't look at, backwards. Look forwards. You have to imagine a future for yourself and for what it means to be Korean American. These are all things that, in a way, I'm Gen X. Gen X has kind of failed you. This is one of the many things that we've failed, as each generation has its successes and failures. Gen X, we should have really done a lot better figuring this stuff out, but we were too backwards looking. We were trying too hard to make our parents happy. We were trying too hard to figure out like how to bring our Korean culture into the American sort of, but we're all doing that, but we were doing it very poorly. So I want to encourage you to, while you understand where your roots are, that don't look, while we look to the past to learn and to understand ourselves, when it comes to building a life, and a life for, if you choose to have children, you don't have to, but if you choose to, and subsequent generations, and for yourselves as well, as we're building lives together here in the United States and in American culture. It's your imagination, your vision, that will build that future for us, and not by, staying stuck, trying to do what other people are telling us to do, okay? What it means to be Korean American, that answer actually isn't out there right now. It's up to you and each one of us to create that, co-create, to answer that question in the coming years. Does that make sense? A little nods, maybe, some people, maybe. Okay, third thing that I wanted to share today that your parents would never tell you is very much about how to stand tall as Korean Americans in America, especially in light of all the things that we're experiencing politically, socially, economically, okay? And if I had to give one good answer as to how should we exist, how do we thrive, it's this: by learning how to accept paradox. Being able to accept that multiple things can be true that shouldn't both be, but shouldn't be able to be true at the same time, but they are, okay? And the reason I say that is because if you look at pretty much every culture, especially Asian cultures, it's a part of life. If you watch K-dramas or partake in any other kind of cultural product, you'll notice that it's something that people are very comfortable with. You know who's not comfortable with it? Like, quote-unquote mainstream Americans. A lot of one of the things that makes Americans American is that Americans are very resistant to understanding paradox. Everything's either right or wrong. Either if you're a Democrat or Republican, then you're on the right side, and whatever the other side is the wrong side. You know, Yankees suck, Red Sox are good, whatever. Like, you know, Dodgers, what is the other one? San Francisco Giants, you know, all these sorts of things. For some reason, it's part, and I don't want to get into it too much today, but there's something about American culture that makes people want to make everything into black and white. I have theories about why. I'm not going to get into it today. But suffice it to say, if you had to, like, as Korean Americans, we're all struggling with this idea of, like, what does it mean to sort of balance the different cultures that live in ourselves? As far as the Korean part, if there's one thing that you carry that. Multiple things can be true at once. And start to look around and see how a lot of people around here, and when you listen to the news or read things online, you'll notice that people are very resistant to that. And it's up to you to sort of like hold the flag for paradox, because that's actually closer to truth. That's where the truth lies. Does that make sense too? Fourth thing, this is kind of a funny one. And again, your parents would never tell you this in a million years. I think, for most of us, if not just a lot of us here in this room, the best way for you to honor your parents is to disappoint them. Be a horrible disappointment. What I mean by that is this. Okay, I'm your Korean dad on the internet. Usually I do this. By the way, this is not a wave, it's actually a little head pat. People think it's a little wave, I'm waving. I started that because I always really liked when my mom would touch my head. Like if my head was on her lap, I would grab her hand and put it on my head. It was just something that was very comforting to me, and it's something that was it's been a big part of my sort of parenting life as well. But as your Korean dad, I have more than 4 million followers and subscribers on the internet. And so, you know, a lot of people will call me Appa or Dad, or sometimes Daddy. It's very weird, cringe. I get called a lot of these sorts of things. I am learning how to be comfortable with that sort of identity, but that said, if I'm gonna flex it a little bit, it's by saying this. Okay, you honor your parents by disappointing them. What I mean by that is this. Your parents are doing the best that they can, and they, in many ways, are failing you. They can't be there for you in the ways that you always need. And they can't always see you the way that you need to be seen. But I think that we all want to believe there's part of them, right? Like maybe the part of them that when they were your age, that maybe like if you could like Back to the Future style, like meet them when they were a kid, like they would understand you better. And maybe if they were your age now, like your friend hanging out, like they would understand you better. It would be like your parent. But like I said, like Back to the Future style, like they're right there with you, and they would see you in the way that you needed to be seen. Maybe that's a better parent to imagine and to hold in our hearts than sometimes the way that our parents let us down, sometimes the way that they give us shame, sometimes the ways that they that they can't be there for us or don't see us the way that we need to be seen. So it's such a weird thing. It's, to be very frank, it's how I've had to sort of learn how to deal with my parents, is learning to sort of re-engineer stuff and think, I'm disappointing them, but like all this internet stuff, they don't understand. But maybe they would if they were a little bit different. And the fact that I'm disappointing them, maybe that's okay. Maybe they can be proud of me in another universe, in the multiverse, right? There's ways of honoring the spirit and the values and the foundation of your parents, and the part that that wants to love you, wants to see you. Honor that by not being afraid to disappoint them. Okay? That's my fourth thing. The last thing I want to share is a little bit different, but it's really important. It might be one of the most important things, which is that I look out here and I love to see this community that you all have built here in Santa Cruz, I know that everyone comes from all over the country and all over the state and all over the area, but you come together here because you have this sort of common things in common, and it has to do with Korean American identity and all that sort of stuff. And it's really, really wonderful to see. A lot of love in this room. I want to talk about love a little bit, okay? And a really important lesson, and it might be the most important lesson that I've been really working on the last few years of my life, which is loving other people and loving yourself. Those two things have to always be in balance. They're like two tanks that have to be full. That's when things are healthy, and that's when things are like right. And when there's too much, not enough of one or the other, then that's dysfunction. That's like dysfunction. That's where a lot of our things that we're trying to work on ourselves, that's where it comes from, okay? So when you love other people a lot, but you don't love yourself enough, then we get in trouble. You are like a doormat. You can be a certain kind of self-sacrificial. You can be what sometimes people call pick-me, right? You know? You lose yourself in trying to earn the love from other people because you don't love yourself enough. There is such a thing as loving yourself too much and not loving other people enough. But that doesn't tend to be our problem as much, does it? Okay? And the thing that's really important about this is that only when those things are in balance is our love actually healthy. Otherwise, it just simply isn't. And I know that's a kind of a heavy one, but it's one I wanted to share because it's really, really important, and I don't know if anyone's really talked to you about this before, and that's kind of what I mean. So that all said, I'm going to wrap up. So the first thing, I'm just going to recap the 5 things. The first thing was, basically, the best way to make sense of your childhood is to name what you had, name what you didn't have, and what each still means for you, okay? Second thing was, the best way to be Korean American is to change and shape, and you define what Korean American even means, what the identity of Korean American means. The third thing was, the best way to honor your Korean roots is to embrace paradox, especially in light of such black and white thinking. Okay? The fourth thing, the best way to honor your parents is disappoint the hell out of them. And don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. I'm giving you permission. And then number 5, the best way to love is to love yourself and love others in balance. Okay? I'm here today, and I heard that not everybody knows that Pen is my daughter. I'm Pen Cho's dad. And she's one of the 2 human beings in the world that made me a Korean dad before I was your Korean dad on the internet. And I want to wrap up by saying to Pen how much I love you so much. I'm so proud of you every day. And some of you know that she's transferring away from the UC Santa Cruz community after, huh? Nobody knows? Is that a secret? Oh, okay. She's shaking her head. But yeah, I'm so proud of you every day. And I'm sorry to say that you have never disappointed me. So you need to work harder and find ways of disappointing me in the future. Thank you so much. So glad to meet everyone. I'll be hanging out if you want to say hi or have any questions. Otherwise, thank you again for your time and for this community. How wonderful.